welcome to Kidlit Chapter Chat. I'm Kaitlin, and today I'm going to be reading the first chapter of Katie Zhao's The Dragon Warrior, which is published by Bloomsbury. If you hadn't had a chance yet, I hope you go back and watch Katie's book bites that she gave us on Wednesday. She has some really fun world building things that go into The Dragon Warrior, and it's really fascinating, and I hope you go check it out. Chapter 1. On the eve of the Lunar New Year, the demons invaded. I was pretty used to this happening. Demons swarmed the streets of San Francisco's Chinatown every Lunar New Year. Of course, these demons were just humans dressed as fearsome beasts, like golden lions and red dragons, who danced down the streets to the beat of drummers and exploding firecrackers. Real demons would make the annual San Francisco Lunar New Year parade a whole lot more interesting, but nobody had seen one around here in decades. I couldn't see much through the tiny window on the south side of our small one-room house. It was almost 7 in the evening, and the sun had set over an hour ago, but I didn't need to see clearly to visualize what was happening out there. When I closed my eyes, my nose filled with the scent of fried dumplings and dough twists, my favorite desserts of the holiday. A shiver of excitement ran through me as I held up a glittery green and gold mask up to my face. Pretty soon, if I was successful, I'd be out there for real at the parade. I was glad to wear this mask tonight. I'd been born and raised in the Jade Society, a group of warriors who had immigrated from China to San Francisco, California decades ago to protect the people of Earth by fighting demons. But I looked a little different from the other warriors. Dark brown hair and eyes identified me as half Chinese and half other. A blend of Egyptian, Greek, and Turkish ancestry gave me brown eyes and tan skin that, for the most part, defied the black-eyed, pale white skin standard of Chinese beauty. But once I put this mask on, nobody could tell. Footsteps creaked to the floor behind me, and a familiar voice teased, "You're still here, slowpoke." I turned toward my brother, Alex. With his arms folded across his chest and a serious expression, he appeared like a grumpy old man, much older than his 11 years. I was about to leave. Alex pressed a finger to his lips. "Shh, we don't want to wake Yi from his nap. You know he's sick." Our grandfather lay on his bed only a few feet away from us. Thankfully, he probably couldn't hear us over the sound of his own chainsaw-like snores. "You're sure you'll be fine on your own out there, right?" Alex whispered. "Of course. It's not like I haven't been to Chinatown before." "I know, but this time, it's different." My brother was right. I rarely ever snuck out, but tonight a new kind of energy sparkled in the air like static, as though hinting that real demons were preparing to crawl out of their hiding places, just like the legend said. "You could sneak into Chinatown instead," I offered, "or come along." My brother's cheeks colored. "You know I can't. Someone has to stay with Yi, and, well, you're better at combat than I am." He said the last part all in a rush, like ripping off a Band-Aid. Grinning, I cupped my ear in an exaggerated movement. "What was that?" "Nothing," Alex mumbled. "Anyway, we'd better go over the plan." He swept his curly black bangs aside to wipe sweat off his forehead and leaned against our small TV. "What's step 1? Sneak into town and buy medicine from Zhao's Herbal Center," I rattled off dutifully. "Good. Step 2? My stomach growled and I thought of my favorite meat-filled dumplings. "Eat ro bao tzu." "Farron!" Alex glanced nervously at Yi, whose long gray goatee fanned out with each gentle snore. He rolled over, his expression pinched. "Fine," I huffed. "Run back home as quickly as possible before Yi notices I'm gone." "Step 3? "There's a step 3? I paused. "Eat ro bao tzu?" Alex rolled his eyes. "Farron, you're always hungry. Step 3 is what happens in case you see a demon. You're supposed to run. You aren't going to try to be cool and play the hero, all right?" He gestured to the hand-me-down video game stacked by our second-hand gaming console. "This isn't War Fate. You won't be able to start over if you die." I scowled, even though he had a point. "Thanks, Alex. I'll be careful, but I can handle myself. Yi has been training us for years. You should know I beat you in practice matches all the time." Mao hadn't invited Alex and me to train with the other kids, but our grandfather made sure we'd still learned martial arts and swordplay. Training with Yi was better anyway. Mao just wanted the warriors to look powerful, not to become good fighters. She'd taken a strong stance on not bothering the demons as long as they didn't bother us. Yi's training would make me into a true warrior. He once even told me that my best friend was a plank of wood. Then he whacked me in the shoulder with it, yelling, "Too slow. If I were a real demon, you would have died 5 times by now." He repeated the process, and I got really good at ducking. But I was also learning how to fight back. Fighting me is different from fighting a demon, Alex pointed out, pulling me away from my thoughts and back to the present. Yeah, the demons probably smell better, I said. I'm serious. Be careful out there in Chinatown, okay? Alex's gaze locked on the far back wall, which was decorated with huge maps of the entire world that tracked our father's journeys through Chinatowns, mostly in the United States. Shoved against the same wall sat a small wooden kitchen table, every inch covered by colorful stacks of more maps, all belonging to Ba. The paper's edges were yellowed with numerous tea stains from over the years. Its weathered state reminded me of how long it had been, 4 years, since our father's disappearance. No wonder Alex was worried about me. After Ba had disappeared, we were all we had left, and we needed each other. Ba's relentless warnings about the demon's growing strength had angered Mao and some of the other Jade Society adults. Now, without Ba around, they treated us like outcasts. Don't worry, I told Alex. I'm not going to run into any demons. It's like what Mao loves to say, right? We've been demon-free since 1983, Alex finished. He scratched his chin. I guess we should be safe. The 80s were pretty much like right around the time dinosaurs went extinct. Exactly. But even as I flashed Alex a reassuring grin, my stomach clenched up. And I was pretty sure it wasn't from the slightly moldy, stinky tofu that Mao had given us to eat earlier for dinner. Yi had warned Alex and me not to go into the town tonight, that he could feel the demon's evil stirring, which made it harder for him to breathe. At the time, I'd scoffed. My grandfather said that every year, and yet they still hadn't risen from Chinese hell, Diu. Yi let out a loud snore that shook the empty teacup stacked on the kitchen table. When he quieted, Alex shoved a wad of dollar bills into my hand and whispered, Go, and seriously, be careful. We don't know what's out there. I nodded. Moving as quietly as I could, I slid out the door and shut it behind me. In the sky far above my head, another shower of fireworks exploded. Beyond the walls and apartments of the quiet, tucked-away Jade Society lay the heart of San Francisco and its famous Chinatown. Average residents knew better than to turn up uninvited at the doorstep of the wealthy, powerful families who ran the society. If they tried, intimidating guards would stop them at the gates with their ultra-doomsday glares. I dashed across the grassy lawn and through the black gates. A tall oak tree stood just outside the Jade Society's massive entryway, which was almost as tall as the trees themselves. I walked toward the oak tree, reached up and spread some of the leaves apart until I spotted what I was looking for, a small black lever. The lever gave after I yanked it, and a gaping hole the size of a door appeared in the middle of the tree trunk. To keep ourselves as separate as possible from the outside world, the Jade Society warriors traveled to San Francisco's Chinatown and other parts of the outside world using this underground tunnel. I was pretty sure that if I wanted to, I could take this route clear to China or Narnia. I looked down at the smooth floor of the tunnel and found what I was searching for, one lone rusty black bicycle at the near-empty bike rack next to the entrance. The characters for Property of the Jade Society were written on the bike's surface in red. Normally the rack was full, but tonight the rest of the bikes were gone since almost everyone had taken them to the Lunar New Year parade. Only the oldest, rustiest one, which Alex and I were forced to share, was left. After grabbing the bike, I steadied it and swung my leg over the seat. There wasn't a moment to waste. I had to get Yi's medicine, and quickly. I pedaled so hard and fast down the dark tunnel I could practically see the light. Then I really did see the light. The end of the tunnel drew into sight, which was good since I was panting and wheezing like I'd just run a marathon while being chased by demons. I braked to a stop and left my ride near the tunnel exit, racking it haphazardly next to all the other bikes. I ran along the tunnel, which was dimly lit with torches, toward the growing light, San Francisco's Chinatown. The tunnel exited into an abandoned alley on the outskirts. I emerged from it and breathed in the cool evening air, filled with too many yummy scents to identify. I'd seen the neighborhood at night many times by now, yet its beauty never failed to take my breath away. Red lanterns lit up every corner. The sidewalks teemed with people purchasing dumplings from shouting vendors and exchanging red packets of money, Hong Bao, to ring in the year of the horse. I strolled through the streets, taking as much time as I dared before I was forced to stop where the crowd had reached a standstill. Look, Sun Tzu, said an old woman next to me. She nudged the college-age guy next to her. Based on the Mandarin Chinese term she'd used, he was her grandson. It's time for the annual parade of the Jade Society warriors. I couldn't resist pausing to watch the show. The Lunar New Year only comes around once a year, after all. A procession of teenage boys and their fathers marched to the beat of fast-paced traditional songs toward the brightly colored costumed dragons. Clad in bronze armor from head to foot, the procession followed 4 men on horseback. The horses had been brought in specially for the occasion. Both lines stopped when they met under the towering green Dragon's Gate at the intersection of Bush Street and Grant Avenue. The crowd quieted in the presence of the most powerful men and boys in Chinatown. I mean, these guys literally sat on their high horses. My fists clenched as I noticed Lu Hao, a lanky teenage boy with a long, narrow face that was permanently fixed in a sneer. The heir of the richest family in the society, he'd taken to teasing both Alex and me over the years, but especially Alex, calling him names and stealing his books. To Lu Hao's right waited a brown mare with an empty saddle, probably meant for his father, Mr. Yang, to ride. He must have been off as usual, attending to the shady business dealings that made his family so wealthy. But everyone else's eyes focused on the boy in the very front. He was tall, sturdy build, and coal-black eyes commanded attention. And it was hard to ignore the costumed figure behind him, too, humans hidden within an elaborate outfit designed to resemble the half-lion, half-dragon demon called the Nian. Every Lunar New Year, Nian, you return to our village in the hopes of destroying the crops, boomed the 14-year-old heir to the Jade Society. He thrust a weapon at the Nian's fabric mouth, the jagged blade of a custom-forged sword. But this year, I, the Great Wang, will banish you forever. The people in the crowd whooped, and their cheers grew louder as Wang and the costume demon pretended to fight each other. Firecrackers exploded near their dancing feet, sending blasts of light shooting out into the night. "I love you, Wang!" screamed a nearby girl, probably Wang's girlfriend, Wendy Tian. I rolled my eyes and muttered, "Crowd pleasers." "Our so-called protectors from evil," scoffed the old woman, startling me. Had she read my mind? How far they have fallen. Her grandson snorted. "When were those boys anything but a bunch of show ponies, Nai-Nai?" "Ben Sun Su," the woman scolded, "don't speak about things you don't understand. The Jade Society warriors used to do great things." "Shh, Nai-Nai, they'll hear you." "I hoped they do. Maybe then these warriors will remember that they were once the heroes of Chinatown. When I was a young girl, they worked tirelessly to capture rogue demons and protect the earth. These boys don't look like they could capture anything. Zin Mei Yong." Useless, she'd call them. She wasn't wrong. Once the warriors had chased most of the demons out of San Francisco, the society's goals had shifted from honoring the gods' wishes and going on hunts to making money and turning our headquarters into an impenetrable fortress. I had pictures and memories of my own father to remind me what a true warrior looked like. With short, black and gray streaked hair, a bulbous nose, and a stern poker face, my father looked and had been fearless. Even his name, Liu Bo, felt powerful. Though Alex and I went by our Americanized names, first name before last name, Ba, like Yi, followed Chinese tradition with our family name appearing first. And he was the hero of countless stories. Even though San Francisco remained demon-free, Ba sought danger out across the world. On his travels, Ba had bested hundreds of demons and stopped floods. He'd even gone head-to-head with trickster gods who rebelled against the Jade Emperor, the ruler of the heavens and the most powerful deity we worshipped in the Jade Society. Ba could have become a general in service to the Jade Emperor, but he had me and then Alex before vanishing. "Demons? Never even seen one," the boy said. "They've got to be too scared to show their faces now since the warriors are protecting us." The old woman's frown deepened. "Demons can disguise themselves as humans. They could be anywhere, even now. You should be careful what you say, silly boy. The demons are at their strongest during the 15 days of the New Year celebrations before the moon is full." The old woman's words reminded me of the history behind the festival. Thousands of years ago, the Lunar New Year celebrations had been designed to ward off evil spirits. But the world had a way of balancing everything out. As the demons grew more powerful, so did the gods and warriors. Or so Yi had told me. Yi. Oh no, I'd come here to get his medicine, not watch the warrior show. I pushed past laughing elders and squealing children, plodding down the brightly lit Jackson Street until I reached a large herbal store with a sign hanging over it that read Zhao's Herbal Center. I entered the store and walked past rows of jars, big and small, filled with unidentifiable substances, selecting a container of pipagao, a nasty-smelling black liquid for curing coughs. I took a deep breath, slowly moving toward the counter. "Please don't let it be moly. Don't let it." But there stood Zhao Moli, the pale, willowy daughter of the local medicinal guru, Mr. Zhao. Moli fit the Jade Society's idea of beauty so perfectly. It was as though the gods had designed her themselves. Every girl wanted to be like her. She donned her riding clothes constantly, brown riding boots pulled over white pants, paired with a fitted black long-sleeve jacket and a black riding helmet, to remind everyone she was a two-time state junior equestrian champion. Molly's black eyes met mine as I made my way to the counter. I resisted the urge to flinch. She couldn't recognize me under this mask. Or maybe she could. After all, we'd once been best friends until Ba disappeared. I fixed my gaze on my feet as I placed my grandfather's medicine on the counter. We closed 2 minutes ago, Molly said sourly. We won't open again until 2 weeks from today when the Lunar New Year is over. My heart sank. 2 weeks from now? Who knew how much my grandfather's sickness would progress? Now, turning customers away isn't in the spirit of the new year. Mr. Zhao, a short, round man with almost no hair, came up behind Molly. He put his arms around his considerably taller daughter. She frowned and wriggled out of his grasp. Mr. Zhao smiled at me. I'll ring you up. No one should start off the Lunar New Year sick. Thank you, Shushu, I said, keeping my voice low and distorted. Unlike some of the Jade Society adults, Mr. Zhao treated me with as much warmth as he did all the other kids. Still, if I'd greeted him the usual way, Molly would know who I was. How many times have I told you that you can't let the customers take advantage of you, said Molly. You're too kind, Baba, but you can't save the whole world. My hand jerked while reaching for the medicine Mr. Zhao had bagged, nearly knocking it to the ground. I caught it in midair, my heart hammering. Are you okay? Molly asked. Yeah. Hey, she squinted, leaning against her broom. Don't I know you from some... Yes, I'm Baron Liu, your former best friend turned enemy, remember? Without responding, I ducked my head down and bolted past the rows of herbs. I pushed open the door. The loud cheers and explosions of firecrackers thrummed in my ears. My fingers curled around the jar of medicine, and I pictured my sickly grandfather at home without his medicine. There was no time to gawk. My feet took me down a shortcut leading toward the underground tunnel's entrance. Passing teeming restaurants, bubble tea shops, and beauty salons, I rounded the corner and slammed straight into a convincing red and gold Nian, not unlike the one Wang had fought during the parade. The demon had the body, nose, and muzzle of a lion, along with a full mane and long, razor-sharp teeth, but combined with the scaly skin and pronounced brow ridge of a dragon. Even though it was swathed in shadow, I could tell that the costume filled up half the alleyway. It loomed before a group of 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls who couldn't be older than 6 or 7. We aren't scared, shouted a bald little boy. You can stop pretending to be a demon. The real Nian isn't such a stupid-looking creature. Don't be mean, Ah Wen. I bet they worked really hard on their costumes, scolded the girl next to him. I really like the fangs, Shushu. They look super real. Can I touch them? A deep, rumbly snarl came in response. These parade participants were really committed to this demon act. Maybe we should leave whoever it is alone, the other boy suggested nervously. But his friend ignored him. Fetch, Fido! Ah Wen reached into his pocket and chucked something at the dragon, a dumpling. It bounced off the costume and landed with a plop on the pavement. What's the matter? You don't like vegetable dumplings either? Ah Wen, you're being rude. No one likes veggie dumplings. A low, feral growl rumbled through the alley, shaking the ground. I looked at the costume, really looked at it, and was doused with a sudden, icy realization. No human feet poked out from under the scaled underbelly of the beast. To find out what keeps happening, go pick up Katie Zhao's The Dragon Warrior and enjoy this fascinating fantasy that she has set in Chinatowns across the U.S. I hope you all have a great Friday, and we'll see you next week.